Well, America has taken out the illegitimate socialist Venezuelan narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro.
Mamá huevo, qué locura. Mocaí. Mira esa mierda, explotaron allá toda esa mierda porque tú no estás explotando.
And the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has said that they will run Venezuela.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela.
I don't know about you, but I welcome the bloodless removal of a dictator who left his people to starve, bankrolled narco-terrorism, propped up Vladimir Putin's war machine, and jailed opponents after refusing to honour democratic elections. What is there to whine about? And yet, the global left has gone hysterical. They bleat about sovereignty while ignoring starvation. They chant about peace while excusing tyranny. They cry international law, their favourite thing, only when a strong man they like is finally stopped. Maduro was not misunderstood reformer, was he? He was a cartel boss with a flag. His regime turned a once rich nation into a mass migration factory, exporting misery across the hemisphere and laundering billions through drugs, gold and corruption. So spare me the tears for a dictator who poisoned democracy and crushed dissent. And how has our great, strong Prime Minister responded to all of this?
Well, I want to establish the facts first. I want to speak to President Trump. I want to speak to allies. As I say, I can be absolutely clear that we were not involved in that. And as you know, I always say and believe we should all uphold international law. But I think at this stage, fast-moving situation, let's establish the facts and take it from there.
Words of confidence. No wonder why British people think our Prime Minister is weak. He cares more about international law than defending our borders, doesn't he? Trump's move has made him look even weaker. A Prime Minister, by the way, who gave away the Chagos Islands because of that phrase they all love, international law. And here is his latest tweet, astonishingly similar to other European leaders. Did they perhaps have a little group phone call to decide what they should all say? Do you think he spoke to little Napoleon in France and said, oh, Macron, what are we going to do? We all hate it, but we have to say something. Now, let's not forget about the real consequences here for our collective enemy, China. China has invested heavily in Venezuela's oil infrastructure and technology sectors. Between 2010 and 2020, Venezuela received about 86% of China's arms sales to the Americas and is the largest buyer of Chinese oil. That is incredible. This was the ultimate show, removing Maduro, of American power, wasn't it? It was accountability for a dictator. While establishment leftists scream into an empty void, Venezuelans are doing this. They're so out of touch, aren't they? They're all talking about international law when actually this is about accountability. It's about looking after our own too. It was the end of impunity for a man who mocked elections, tortured critics, and fed his people propaganda instead of food. And notice the silence from those who lecture us daily about human rights. Suddenly, they can't find their voices, can they? Suddenly, tyranny gets a pass because the tyrant wore the right ideological badge. The message today is simple from Trump. Dictators are not untouchable. Borders do not shield criminals forever, and the world is safer when these narco states fall without a single innocent life being lost. If you oppose that, You're not anti-war, you're pro-tyrant. And joining me now is geopolitical expert Kate Jones to discuss this. Kate, thank you very much for joining me this evening. It really does seem to me, Kate, that the global left here have had their arms up in the air about international law. And I appreciate there is some importance to it. But this man was an evil dictator, in my opinion. He's done some horrific things to the great people of Venezuela. And actually, we should be welcoming this kind of interventionism because it's what foreign policy should be about, removing these awful people from power.
Well, this represents a massive geopolitical shift. We're not just looking at Venezuela itself and changing the Southern Hemisphere under Monroe Doctrine. We're also looking at a massive shift across the globe, and Chinese dependency suddenly on U.S. Venezuelan oil, as it seems is going to happen, will change its objectives in Taiwan and also in Russia with the Ukraine war. So I think we'll see a significant change in the balance of power with the U.S. Running the oil in Venezuela.
Yeah, Kate, and that's really important. The oil here is actually critical because China and Venezuela have some quite important agreements between each other to buy this oil. Chinese buying the oil, which is propping up their national security, supporting their efforts. But actually, this is right on the doorstep of the United States of America. This is Trump saying, get out of our territory, isn't it? All while, by the way, it seems to be that Chinese officials are actually in Venezuela right now.
That's right. And then you sort of wonder what the coordination of this might have been if the Chinese knew or if there had been some arrangement in advance to ensure that this would run smoothly. Although, given the Trump administration, I think that the impetus to do this has been there for a very long time. He brought up Soleimani. This was something that he's thought for a long time about Venezuela. This goes back to when he was 45 and originally when they had attempted some sort of an overthrow. So I think it's been on his radar forever. There's been a huge focus coming out of State Department to the Southern Hemisphere. And Marco Rubio is part of that. Of course, he's Cuban. And you see that link back to Venezuela. I think some of the humor in this right now is people are saying that Marco Rubio will be Venezuela, Cuba, and the Shah of Iran is the running joke. So, and at the same time, we can't discount what's going on in Iran at this very moment because all of these events are very much linked. And that regime is reaching a level of instability we've not seen before. I think they took away some of the security forces from the embassies. And so Iran and Venezuelan oil go to China, and
Indeed.
These two are linked.
Yeah, Kate Jones. We'll be talking about Iran later on this evening, if anyone's wondering, watching at home. Kate Jones, thank you very much for joining me this evening. I'd like to get the thoughts of my panel in the room. Former Conservative MP Jane Stevenson, former Labour advisor Paul Richards, and Reform UK councillor Jamie McIver. Welcome to the show, everybody. Jamie, I'll start with you. Perhaps we talk about Keir Starmer briefly. It seems to me he's rather than come out, as of old, where you have Thatcher come out and make a strong statement based on her beliefs in the country's best interest, he's gone, I better talk to my aides about this one, and I better speak to the European leaders. How pathetic. What's happened to our country?
I'm not going to attempt that amazing impression, but what I will say is it's proven that there's only kind of one British politician that is a world leader in the making, and that's Nigel Farage, because he instantly came out this morning and said what we were all thinking. But more to the point, Starmer showed once again to be so weak. It's embarrassing. As a Brit, I cringe that that's our leader. But also, Alex, what I think is very interesting is he revealed this morning in that interview that he'd actually spoken to the BBC before he had actually spoken to the president of our closest ally. I find that totally deranged. How your closest ally has just done a very intense and clearly a professional execution of a military operation. And rather than get on the phone and say, blimey, didn't see that one coming, is there anything I can do to help you? He revealed that he'd rather speak to the BBC, and he revealed that he's been completely locked out, probably because the United States don't trust this Prime Minister like the country doesn't trust him.
Or Paul, care what Keir Starmer thinks, quite frankly. Who cares? He hasn't got an opinion, clearly.
I think at a time like this, which is an epoch-making moment in global politics, I'm quite glad we've got a grown-up in charge who does just stop, pause, deliberate, look at the evidence, weigh up what is actually happening rather than just tweeting from the hip.
And Farage's tweet, by the way, has declared this as an illegal act. Now, I think it's a bit precipitate to say that, but he said it's illegal. Now, is he an international lawyer? I don't think so. But it's an odd thing to say as the very first thing you say. And I'm quite glad that the Prime Minister said, well, let's just, talk to our allies. By the way, none of the other world leaders were in the loop on this either. It was obviously hermetically sealed from the world. And that's how they managed to maintain the secrecy that allowed it to happen. So, Israel weren't dealt in and other allies weren't dealt in either. But, yeah, it's a moment for all of us just to take pause and to work out what on earth is going to happen next, because all of the assumptions of the post-war world about international rules-based law are up in the air.
Jane, are we waking up now? Is the West waking up to the realism of the world? We've lived in this bubble for a very long time where we should, kumbaya, all hold hands together. In the meantime, Putin's invaded Ukraine. China is making inroads across Africa and across the world. Iran has been funding terrorism in the Middle East. We've been sat on our hands going, it's all okay, everybody. And actually, Trump's brought a bit of realism back to the West, saying we could end up like these countries if we don't stop this now.
Well, I think it is certainly going to be an interesting year, because it looks like President Trump has decided to do a 180 on this. I'm not going to get involved in foreign disputes. He has ploughed on in there. I think today, you're absolutely right, Paul, it will be in the history books. I mean, this is extraordinary. And I think it sent such a clear message to the mullahs in Iran. It has really sent a message to quite a few people. And I think that's what Trump's new strategy looks like, that he wants to have this much more muscular, visible response.
And is it the end of America first, I wonder? The MAGA base was...
Well, is it not America first in many respects? Hundreds of thousands of people die a year to the drug trade in America. And trust me, as someone who lived in parts of America where the drugs are exceptionally bad on the West Coast, you would want that drug trade to be stopped. So that's going to help Americans. But also, this is in part of America's sphere of influence, isn't it, Venezuela? It has been for a very long time.
But he said no war. He said no more wars, and he said America first. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it is different from what he said.
No more wars thing, but is it America first in the sense that it's putting America's national interest first? Yes. Is it protecting Americans or help them be healthier and not have all these drugs coming in? Yes. So there are some America first.
If that's what you believe it's about, but he said it's about oil, and I believe it's about oil.
Well, I think what you have to bear in mind here is Donald Trump is a man that does do what he says he's going to do. Now, you may have a point on that, but I don't really think the United States is at war with Venezuela and this is going to be for a long time. This is a case of liberating a country from a dictator, and that's exactly
we did say that about Iraq, though, didn't we?
Well, he wasn't legitimately elected.
No,
I think,
he's an absolute
Trump's
bad
choice
man.
of words, calling him narco-terrorist.
Just like this country, drugs rip through American society like it does here, and actually he is putting his own people first. And if you're the mother or father of someone that's died from drugs in America, you'd be sitting there popping champagne tonight.
But that would also be an argument to go to a lot of other conflicts.
Well, yes,
where's
true.
the limit?
Colombia next.
Will be. Perhaps Iran will be next, and we'll talk about that at 10 o'clock. Can I just very quickly, if we've got this clip, there's a clip of protesters in London outside the Venezuelan embassy. Let's roll that for you quickly.
Shame, 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 shame. For the self-determination of the Venezuelan people, they will do the same to anyone who dares to challenge the imperialist interests, the interests of the state.
These people are deranged. There are celebrations across Venezuela today, yet these people are outside the Venezuelan embassy protesting against the removal of a dictator. I mean, this is the left in Britain. This is the left.
It's not the left in Britain. It's a small section of the left, the Stop the War left.
Zara Sultana was right.
Yeah,
on
it's your party, but it's not the left as a whole.
It's the Zach Polanski said this was a bad idea, and we all believe it. We're all going to go and do whatever he says. It's so embarrassing. It's weak and embarrassing. But actually, what's good is it just reveals the mask slips with the left, which is why I think
it's not the left. Helpful. You're saying it's one thing. I'm on the left, and I agree
there's
with
Labour members of Parliament saying similar things. So there's no agreement.
I mean, it's stop the war, isn't it? It's stop the war, which is a left-wing faction.
But they are completely deranged. They are completely out of touch with what Venezuelans want.
True.
And we've seen this from other political parties today, putting out tweets basically saying, we condemn the actions Trump is doing. You can condemn it from an international law perspective, but that is a piece of paper. The people in Venezuela are celebrating the removal of a dictator who destroyed their lives, destroyed their country, and they're happy about it.
Just like in Iraq. They celebrated in Iraq too.
Well, Iraq is actually doing quite well now.
What comes next is the key question.
Well, Iraq is doing a lot better today. Speak to people who go there. There you go. That's what they tell me. Anyway, listen.